5-month-old Benjamin Sargent died with his hands clenched and his eyes open after enduring unimaginable neglect in his final 8 days alive. This is his story. Benjamin's case is reminiscent of another one that was covered on this channel about Sterling Cone. The neglect and abuse this little one went through was as horrific and torturous as what happened to Sterling. John Sargent and Tracy Herman were the parents of 2 children, a 3-year-old daughter and 5-month-old Benjamin. Benjamin was born on August 27, 2007 in Peoria, Illinois. Sargent and Herman were having issues in their relationship, and Herman was seeing other men, making Sargent the primary caregiver to Benjamin. Benjamin weighed 8 pounds at birth and had blonde hair and brown eyes. He was a healthy, beautiful baby. Sargent's mother took care of Benjamin quite a bit, buying him clothes and nurturing him like only a grandma can. On February 4th, 2008, Benjamin's grandma dropped him off at Sargent and Herman's house after caring for him that day. Benjamin was placed on the floor of the couple's home, strapped in his car seat and wearing a bright blue snowsuit his grandma had given him. There was a garage adjacent to the home where a tenant was staying. He reportedly spotted Benjamin on the floor in his car seat through a window. At some point in the ensuing days, this tenant took Benjamin, car seat and all, and placed him into his crib. His parents never took him out of his crib. Sargent and Herman would enjoy themselves by playing video games, watching TV, eating meals, and carrying on with their day-to-day lives. At one point, Herman looked in on Benjamin and presumed he was asleep. So she popped a bottle into his car seat next to him so he could grab it and eat it when he woke up. After that, she went to Iowa to meet a man she met over the internet. Prosecutors later made a point to remind the jury that Benjamin was only 5 months old, an eye roll to the fact that a 5-month-old shouldn't be expected to feed himself. On February 12th, 8 days after Benjamin had been dropped off in his car seat to Sargent and Herman's house, the tenant again saw Benjamin where he had placed him days earlier, still in his car seat and still in his crib. The police were called and they arrived at the home. The house was described as being in utter disarray, with dirty diapers lying around, clothes strewn about, and spoiled food everywhere. The officers also noted that there was a shortage of food in the house. The police made their way into the 80-degree room Benjamin was in, discovered him in his crib, dead. Sargent and Herman were arrested and taken in for questioning. Herman told officers that he had moved Benjamin a couple of times during that period and fed him one of his 2 daily bottles he normally has a day, just hours before officers arrived. He also told them how exhausted he was, that he was left to care for Benjamin by himself a lot, and he was distraught due to the troubles in the couple's relationship. When Herman was questioned, she told officers that she had placed a bottle in Benjamin's crib the night before he was discovered, and that Benjamin was John's responsibility. Both were charged with first-degree murder and faced the death penalty. Sargent went to trial first, and it began on April 27, 2009. The pathologist, Dr. Scott Denton, testified that Benjamin likely hadn't eaten for 3 days prior to being discovered. When asked if it was possible that he had been fed earlier that day, like John said, the pathologist said no. It was first thought that he died from malnutrition and dehydration, but the pathologist testified that Benjamin died from a bacterial infection due to his diaper not being changed for a week or possibly more. Benjamin had laid in his own waste for 8 full days. Horrific images were shown to the court of the sores and skin decay Benjamin had on his buttocks and back. One photo showed his torso and what looked like a chemical burn brought on by Benjamin sitting in his own waste for 8 days. Another showed his midsection and how it was devoid of fat brought on by malnutrition. Sargent didn't look at the photos. He sat at the table with his head down, rubbing his hands through his hair. The decay in Benjamin's skin caused a bacterial infection to spread throughout his body, resulting in a coma and his death. Although the pathologist couldn't pinpoint the exact day Benjamin died, he stated that he likely died a day before he was discovered. The jury was shown a videotape of the interview Sargent had with officers when he said that he had fed Benjamin 2 bottles the day before the police arrived at their home. This was adamantly disputed by the pathologist, Dr. Denton. Pictures were also shown to the court of Benjamin at Christmas time, chubby and smiling. There was also a photo of him on February 4th being fed sweet potatoes by his grandma. Benjamin was a normal weight at his 2-month doctor checkup. He was also living with his grandma at the time. He weighed only 10 pounds at the time of his death, 2 pounds more than his birth weight. The defense argued that Sargent didn't willfully starve Benjamin. He stated that he withdrew into a fantasy world due to the crumbling relationship with Herman. He also argued that Sargent had dissociative disorder, stating that he would assume a role from The Lord of the Rings and withdraw from everyone. A psychiatrist that interviewed Sargent, Dr. Killian, testified that this could only explain some of what happened to Benjamin. He further stated that Sargent is either deaf and blind or an utter psychopath. There's no evidence of either, Killian said. This was in partial reference to the fact that Benjamin had to have been crying out for most of the days he was starving and in pain from the burning and decaying of his skin. The judge rejected the defense of mental illness. The trial lasted 3 days. The judge took a 10-minute break and found Sargent guilty of first-degree murder. The judge also admonished Sargent, saying he acted in a heinous and brutal way when he neglected to feed, bathe, or change Benjamin. He was sentenced that following June to 100 years in prison. Sargent didn't react when the verdict was handed down. Herman's trial was scheduled to begin in August of that year, but she opted to plead guilty. At the plea hearing, she stated in a barely audible voice that she made a disastrous mistake by allowing Benjamin to go without food or water or a diaper change. She apologized to the courtroom and stated that the 50 years she was getting for his death would bring justice to Benjamin. She will serve 100% of her sentence, making her 72 when she gets released. One more bit of information that came out at this hearing was that Herman had been warned not to leave Benjamin alone with Sargent. The death penalty was taken off the table due to both of the defendants' mental health issues. Thank you for watching this episode. Remember to subscribe and hit the notification button.